Torah portion. Boy, we are in the fourth reading. Let us get right into it. Lengthy reading. Okay. Moshe said to Pharaoh, Amar, so says Hashem, like at midnight, I will go out amongst the Egyptians, in the midst of the Egyptians. Rashi in verse number 4, Koyamar, Vayemer Moshe, Koyamar Hashem, and Moshe said, so said Hashem. This prophecy was in which Moshe addressed Paro directly, was said to him while he was still standing in the presence of Paro. Because once Moshe departed from Pharaoh, he did not see Pharaoh's face again. Now we mentioned yesterday, right, as Moshe said that I will not see your face again. That was in verse 29 in chapter 10 previously. And so this was said then while he was still in the presence of Pharaoh. What does it mean? When the night is divided, meaning exactly midnight when the night is divided. Kechatzois is a verb form, just has the same structure as ba'alois, meaning as an offering was ascending. B'chayris apambam, as when similar to the phrase when the anger was burning against us. That's a simple meaning. So he's just saying, at the time when the night is divided, that's like chatzois between. And it fits within its context. Because the chatzois is not a noun meaning half. So that's the simple meaning, Rabbi. But our sages, they expounded on it at approximately midnight. So they state that Moshe said at approximately midnight, which means close to midnight, or either before or after midnight, the 10th plague of the firstborn that will die, right? It's either before or after. But he didn't say exactly midnight. Why didn't you say exactly midnight when that's exactly what God said? Right, at midnight, because he was afraid that maybe the astrologers of Pharaoh, they would err and not exactly know when midnight is. And then they would say, oh, Moshe is a liar because it wasn't exactly at midnight. But God, when he said exactly midnight. Why? Because he knows exactly the precise moment. That's why he says at midnight. Okay.
Good morning, Rabbi.
Good morning. Okay. Okay, 11 people, please. Okay, 5th verse, next verse. Omeis kol b'chor, and they will die, all the firstborn bears, Mitzrayim in the land of Egypt, and b'chor Parai, from the firstborn of Pharaoh, Hayeshev al-Kisei, who sits on his throne, ad b'chor hashivcha, until the firstborn of a maidservant, Asher Acha Hare Chaim, who's behind the millstone. In other words, she's on the back as a maidservant working. Chol v'chol behema, and also every firstborn animal. Rashi, number 5, Ad b'chol hashvi, until the firstborn of the captive. Something here. Ad b'chol hashivcha asher v'chol b'chol behema. See, okay. Till the firstborn captive. Even though this verse, it doesn't belong here. It's later on, but Rashi brings over here. Lama Laka, why were the captives smitten by the plague? They weren't guilty of enslaving the Jews. They should not that they should not say that the pagan deity demanded satisfaction for their degradation. They brought punishment upon the Egyptians. Right. In other words, so it wasn't the God of the Jews, it was the God of these pagans that brought it upon them. No, so they also got the plague. From the firstborn of Pharaoh until the first of the slave woman. All those that are lesser stature for the firstborn of Parai. And it's greater than the firstborn of the woman slave, were included in this warning. Why were the sons of the slave woman smitten by the plague? Because they did not, make the Israelites work as slaves. But they rejoiced in their distress. Right? Like you have the anti-Semites who strike the Jew, and then you have the anti-Semite who just, applauds those who smite. That's what they were. And all the firstborn animals. Why were the animals smitten? Because the Egyptians worshipped them. When Hashem exacts punishment from the idolatrous nation, so he also exacts punishment from their deities. Verse number 6. There will be a great outcry in the entire land of Egypt. That like it there wasn't, and there will never be like it again, such an outcry. Verse number 7, and for the entire children of Israel, on the other hand, no dog will wet its tongue, its tongue, not against a person, not against a beast. In order that you should know, Asher Yafli Hashem, that Hashem, He separates Mitzrayim, between the Egyptians, Bein Israel, and between the Jewish people. Right? It's not even a dog is going to, do anything against the Jew. Okay, Rashi in verse number 7, and no dog will sharpen his tongue. This is an expression of sharpening. It will not sharpen, that no dog will utter a sharp cry. That's what it means. We find a similar verse in the book of Joshua, that against the children of Israel, man sharpened his tongue. They were sharp. It's just showing different forms of the word. Tishnan, and Machshavas Charutz, Adam Charif Shanun. He's bringing so many proofs to this. Yad Charutim Tashir. Okay, a bunch of Asher Yafli that Hashem distinguishes, Yavdil to separate. Verse number 8. V'yardu kol avadecha elo, Eli, and they will come down, all of these servants, to me, v'ishtachavu li, and they will bow down to me. Lamor saying, say, go out, ata, you, b'chol am, and the entire nation, asher b'raglecha, that are on their feet. Asher b'raglecha. Well, we'll see what Rashi says. Means, we'll see advice, but he means following your feet, meaning your advice. And afterwards, 8 say, I will go out, and afterwards I will leave with my people, and he left Parai. The 8 say, and he left Parai, with indignation. Rashi. Remember, we said earlier that this was all done in front of Parai. Continuing from last time. Yardu kol avadecha, and the slaves will come down. He's saying Parai himself would, he's not saying the Parai himself would come, because he's according honor to royalty. Because in the end, Parai himself came down looking for them, right? He said, get up and get out of from our people. But yeah, Moshe did not tell him in the outset that that's what's going to happen, that he's going to himself come down. He will come down to me and bow down to me. According for the Medrash, right? So he didn't do that in order to give honor to royalty. That are at your feet. This means that they follow your advice and your way, your path. And afterwards I will go forth with my entire people from your land. That's what he's telling him. And now the Yaitse, he went out, Moshe, Aaron, they went out from before the presence of Parai. When he finished what he had to tell him, he left him. He left him with a burning fire, meaning an anger. Al Sha'amar, Al Taisif Panai, the Parai said to him, he will not see my face again. In other words, I guess because of his indignation. In other words, because of his chutzpah, sometimes the way to respond to chutzpah is with indignation. And that's what he does here, to respond to chutzpah. Verse number 9. Hashem said El Moshe to Moshe, he left now from before Parai. Lo yishma aleichem. He will not listen to you, Parai. Laman, why? In order, Rabbeis Mavsai, to make plenty my wonders, be'eretz Mitzrayim, in the land of Egypt. Rashi in 9. Laman Rabbeis Mavsai, in order to increase my wonders, Mavsai Shnayim, Mavsai is plural, so it implies 2. Rabbeis Shalish, and when you say increase, means a third, right? 3. What is that? Maki b'chayis kriyas yamsuf, olanar is Mitzrayim. So it refers to the plague of the firstborn, the splitting of the sea, and the Egyptians who drowned in the sea. Those are the 3 things that will be forthcoming. Verse number 10. Moshe Aaron also is called a Mavsim, and Moshe and Aaron did all of the wonders ha'ela these. Before Para, and yet Hashem, he hardened the heart of Para. And he did not send out the Bnei Israel from his land. Rashi, verse 10, Moshe and Aaron also, Moshe and Aaron performed, they did. Varkas of Lanu Zeis. Sorry. So this has already been written. Leishan Khan, and it's only written here, in order. So the Torah repeats it only to set it in to the next in the following parsha. Okay. Okay, we're in chapter 12, verse number 1. Yom Hashem Moshe, and Hashem spoke to Moshe and to Aaron be'eretz Mitzrayim le'mor. Okay, what did he say? Verse number 1. Yom Hashem El Moshe ba'Aaron bishvil she'Aaron also v'tarach v'mayvsim k'Moshe, because Aaron carried out and exerted himself for the wonders like Moshe, chalak le'kavod, so he was accorded honor. This honor b'mitzvah rishona, with the first mitzvah, right? Of make, when the new month is. Sheklala Moshe b'dibur, he included him in that God spoke about this commandment in the Torah, right? Because he was so involved. So here he's included, even though who is the lawgiver? It's Moshe, not Aaron. He's not the lawgiver. Yet he's included in this. There's Mitzrayim, in the land of Egypt. So this commandment was given to Moshe and Aaron, chutz lekrach, outside of the city, or maybe it was inside of the city. In other words, in Egypt, in the metropolis, right? So the verse says otherwise. Yitzesi is the year that he went out of the city. As we said earlier, so what do we see previously? Remember, he prayed to stop the plagues previously. So when it was a minor prayer, he did not do it inside the city. He went outside. So when it's a significant speech from God that is giving us mitzvahs, all the more so, it would be outside of the city and it wouldn't be in a place of idolatry. So why did not God communicate to him inside of the city? And that itself is because it was full of idols. Okay. Okay, give me one moment, folks. I'll get you coffee. I'll get you the coffee. Sorry, folks. Need a little boost over here.
Amen.
Okay. Where are we? Right. So all the more so, this is one of the kol shekains in the Torah. Okay, verse number 2. Okay, achidish hazel lachem. Oh, lahaya lahaskil sater elav achidish hazel lachem. Rabbi Yitzchak says, first Rashi in Chumash, right? Quotes this. So first mitzvah now. Achidish hazel lachem. This month is for you, Rosh Chodashim, the head of the months. Rishon hu lachem. It is the first of to you, the Chodshei Hashanah of the months of the year. A lot over here. Let's see Rashi. In verse number 2. This month, God showed him. What does it mean, Hazeh? Hazeh means like you're pointing. Meaning it's like God is pointing the Moshe to the moon to show him, and he says to him, when the sun will renew itself, then you know that that's the beginning of your month. And the verse does not depart from the simple meaning, right? That's not simple meaning, right? That God pointed and showed him. But Rashi says that, and of course we need to understand why. Al Chodesh Nisan Amar Lo. With regard to the month of Nisan, God told him, Zeh, this, that this should be the beginning of the order of the counting of the months. Iyar Korishenim. Iyar will be the second month. Sivan will be the third month. That's a simple meaning. Yeah. This month is going to be your first month. That's what the simple meaning. Why Rashi brings the that God showed to him? That's a good question. Glad you asked. Hazeh, this, actually we have it now. Because Moshe was perplexed by the precise determination of when the month is reappears, and he did not know. What kind of size does the moon have to appear in order to be fit to sanctify? Therefore, God showed him with a finger, figuratively speaking, the moon in the sky. And he said to him, like this is Re'eh, see, Bekadish, and you see this and then sanctify it. The case in a row. But how could he have shown him the moon at night? And God only communicated with him during the day. So what does it mean that he showed him the moon? The moon isn't there by day. As the verse says, that God spoke to him by day. In the day that he commanded him. He's just showing different places, because here it doesn't say by day, but we know that from all previous places and later places that it is indeed by day. It was by day, but it was close to sunset, and therefore the moon was able to be visible. And this parsha was told to him. It was showed to him while it was getting dark. Sometimes you see it right before sunset or right around sunset. You can see the moon. Okay, verse number 3. Dabru will call Das B'nai Israel. Speak to the entire congregation of Israel, Lamor, saying, on the 10th of the month, Hazeh, this month, they should take for themselves, each person, a kid, a lamb, right? Lebesa avos, labayis, to their family home, a lamb or a kid for each family. Rashi, Davril ben El Kol Adasis, speak to the entire assembly, entire congregation. Does Aaron speak? Doesn't say the Moshe, he should be the one to speak, because it's spoken singular terms, right? Previously. And you should speak to the children, as I'm saying. And Aaron, they would give honor to each other. And they would each say, teach me the commandment that you just heard from God. And the content of God's speech would come up between the two of them. As if both of them were speaking. Wow. Because he said dabru, and it's plural. So that's unique over here, that it's plural. Usually it's daber, right? Which is singular. That's what he's saying over here, that they're kind of giving honor to each other. It's as if they both spoke, but really it's Moshe is the one who's giving it over. But I'm not exactly clear what it means. Like the people, they received it as if both spoke. Okay. Anyways, we got a lot to learn here, so we're not going to stop because we got a lot. Okay. Dabru el kol das b'nei Yisrael b'esrei chodesh. Speak on the 10th of the month. Dabru b'yom Rosh Chodesh. Speak today, which is the first day of the month. Right. Oh, look at that. Tonight is going to be Rosh Chodesh. Right. And you should take it on the 10th of the month. Now, there's 10 days into the month you should take, but speak about it now. Hazeh. Pesach Mitzrayim Mechol B'Esrei, the taking of the Korban Pesach in Egypt was on the 10th of Nisan. Well, Pesach L'Deiros, but the Korban Pesach for future generations was not, right? That was done on the eve of Pesach, which we'll learn later, not now. A lamb, a kid for a father's home, the mishpachas achas. In others, for one extended family, they should take a lamb, a kid. If the members of the family were numerous, is it possible that one would be enough? Talmud Laimar, that's why it says for a household. Meaning, aha. So one second. Base Avos, father's house, right? And mishpacha, family, both refer to extended family. Whereas bias, it means only immediate family. So here it says the base Avos, so it means extended family. So how does he answer the question? I'm not clear. Because it's not enough. Okay. Being imat habayis, and if the okay. Being imat habayis, and if the family is too small, the Yosmi said that they would require a complete lamb, but lakachu l'shcheno, then he should take him and his family and his neighbor rather, Hakarav El Beisa, that is close to his house, the Michsas Nefashos, and you take them according to the number of people, Ish Se Lefi Achloi, each person according to their, their eating, the Chosus Haseh, they should cover the lamb. Another, you have to make sure that you have enough people that they will cover the lamb. That's the point. There should be nothing left over in the end. Okay, let's see Rashi. If the household will be too small, here it says the word bias, right? That means a nuclear family rather than what we said in the previous verse, that is extended family. If the members of the household are too few for a single lamb, they're not able to eat it entirely. And therefore, they will come to Neisser. Neisser means leftovers, right? Don't tell your wives, but this is where you learn about leftovers you're not allowed to have. Leftovers you are not allowed to have. My wife doesn't like leftovers. She doesn't like to eat the leftovers. She wants to make sure it's eaten. So you're not allowed to have leftovers, okay? Then he and his neighbor shall take. This is what the simple meaning means. But there's a medrash, meaning a homiletic meaning over here. This comes to teach us that after you've been registered, accounted for this particular lamb, you're able to reduce their number, to withdraw from it. and to be registered with another lamb. Right, but if they come to draw their hands away and reduce their number, they should reduce their number while the status of is still applicable, while the lamb still exists. In other words, when it's alive, but and it was not slaughtered. In others, let's say you made a calculation, the calculation wasn't correct, right? You could withdraw from this one and go to another one, as long as it wasn't slaughtered. Because it says al haseh on the lamb, meaning in other words, you can withdraw if you lessen the house, meaning you're taking away someone from the set. The set meaning over here that it's a set that it's a lamb that was not slaughtered. Because otherwise, afterwards, it's a piece of meat. So then you could remove yourself. Let's say if the calculation wasn't correct. Right. Michsas, so Rashi says, means cheshbon, according to the number. According to the eating, this implies a roy la'achila, that those who are fit and able to eat, prat l'chayla, which excludes, according to its eating. In other words, someone who can eat. That excludes someone who's sick, or zaken, or someone who's elderly. Is not able to eat a kazayas, right? You can't eat 3 ounces, so they're excluded from this. They're not to be counted. Tachaisu, tachumnim. It's manun, that you should be counted. Yeah, that you should be covering it, meaning you're counted in it. That's what it means. Okay, verse number 5. Said Tommy, now what kind of animal is this? Said Tommy, it's got to be a pure, flawless, zocher, a male, ben shana, a year old. Yelachem should be for you. Mina kvasim and mina izim tikoch. You can take from sheep or from goats. Rashi in 5. Tomim, it means perfect. It means without a blemish. That's the idea. Ben shana, a first year. Kol shana also could have been shana. And the entire first year is called of the first year. Halai mentioned means it was born in this year. Mina kvasim is ma mina izim, sheep or from goats. Either from either one of them. Sha'af is Kari said, because even a goat is referred to as a seh, as when we speak about sacrifices. Shenem, as the verse says, seh izim, seh of goats. Okay, which we have in the book of Devarim. And this should be a mishmeres, a watch. What does it mean? Until the 14th. Remember, they have to take it on the 10th, right? This sheep or goat. And they have to keep it as a guard, watch over it until the 14th of the Chodesh of this month. And then slaughter it. Kol kahal adas Israel, ben arbaim, the entire congregation of the community of Israel, in the afternoon on the 14th, right? In verse number 6, and it should be for you, the mishmeres, as a safekeeping. Bikur. This safekeeping means examination. Shitam bikur meimum arba yamim kaidem shchita, because this sacrifice required examination for blemishes for 4 days before slaughtering it. So Rashi asks now, why did God tell them that they had to acquire the sacrifice 4 days before they slaughtered it, right? Which is not something you have to do by Korban Pesach for all future generations. So Rabbi Masya ben Charish, so Rabbi Masya, the son of Charish, he used to say, Hare hu omer ever alayach erach v'hine itech eis doidim. So the prophet says, and I, God, passed over you, and I saw you, and behold, at the time of loving, Higia Shvua Shenishbati Labram, She'egol is Bana. So the time has come to fulfill what I swore to Abraham, that I would redeem his children, that time has arrived. Mitzvahs, for him. But they didn't have any mitzvahs to busy themselves with. Kadeshi Igolo, in order that they should be worthy to be redeemed. Shenemar Va'at Eryam Ve'erya, because you were bare naked. Bare naked meaning of mitzvahs. The Jewish people are bare naked. And also, mitzvahs, he gave them two mitzvahs. Dam Pesach, the blood of the Korban Pesach, of the Paschal Lamb offering, with Dam Mila, the blood of circumcision, Shemal Salayla, that they circumcised that night, right? When we had last week that they weren't circumcised. Remember, we asked the question last week in Rashi? And here he's saying that they were circumcised. Shenemar, as it says, that I wallowed in your bloods, plural, shnei damim, two bloods, ba'emer, and in this vein, we say, gam es dam brischa shalachti asirech mibor es mayim, that you too, through the blood of the covenant, I sent free your prisoners from the waterless pit, because they were steeped in idolatry. The Jews, Omar Lehem, so God said to them, Mishchu lachem, draw and take yourselves the lambs and the goats, as if to say, Mishchu lachem tzayin shel mitzvah, draw away your hands from idolatry and take yourselves up with a mitzvah of a commandment. So Rashi is explaining that they're naked from mitzvahs. They're not only that, but they're also involved in idolatry, right? So God wants to give them something that they should merit to go out of Egypt. So he gives them two mitzvahs that have blood in it. One is the slaughter of the Paschal Lamb offering. One is the circumcision, right? So by the lamb, right, he is saying, draw yourself away from their idolatry, because this was their idolatry, right? And take up it in a mitzvah. So they're transforming the idolatry of the Egyptians into a mitzvah of God. Okay.
What does the Mikra say about circumcision? About taking the blood for the lentils, for the
right, with that's clear.
Frames of the doors, that's specified, right?
Only because it's written plural. Damim. Right.
So,
but I don't know what that's here, though.
He said they were circumcised, because we learned that they
by Yeshua they were
served Avodah Zarah. No, well, we learned that they served Avodah Zarah, right? And there's three things that they kept, but Milah isn't one of those three things.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't have an answer. I don't know. Let's go further, because we still got a lot to do. Okay, and you shall slaughter, right? Kikul am sheichtim, kikul am shem. They do all of them, the entire congregation slaughter. From here we learn sheshluchai shel adam kamaisa, that an agent in person is like him himself. Because it says, it doesn't be shachat, you say, it says shachatu, plural, that they shall slaughter. What do you mean they? It's only one person that slaughters, right? So why is it they? Because that teaches us that an agent of a person is as if the person did it himself. Kal Adas Yisrael, the congregation, the assembly of Israel, Kal Adas Yisrael. Three things here: congregation, an assembly, and Israel. Mikan Amra, from here we learn, our sages say, Pischei Tzibor, that the Pesach community offering, Nishchad B'shloisha Kites, is slaughtered in three groups. Zuachazu, one after the other. Nichnas Katri Shaina, the first group enters. This is the time of the Holy Temple, by the way. Ninalim Delaisus Azar. We read this on Erev Pesach when we do the Korban Pesach. The doors of the courtyard of the base of Mikdash were locked. As stated in Pesachim. Wow. Why Rashi has to explain that here. Okay. Ben Arbaim in the afternoon, Misheshos Lamaila from 6 hours up after sunrise. Onward into the afternoon. Kare Ben Arbaim, that's called between the darknesses. Shemesh Naita the base of Vay. Why is it called between the darknesses? Bein Arbaim, Bein Arab, between dark. For at that time the sun inclines towards its setting place. In the west, la'arev, to bring on the darkness. V'loshen bein arbaim, so turn between the darkness. It's near be'enai, appears to me to refer to ois and sha'is of those hours, shebein arivas hayom la'arivas la'ila, between the darkening of the day and the darkening of the night. Arivas hayom, the darkening of the day, tchila sheva sha'is, is from the beginning of 7 hours. Right now, there's 6 hours is exactly midday, right? Sun is right above. 7 hours, it's already now going towards the west.
Right. It's the end of 6 hours, and it's the highest point, which is the beginning of the 7th hour.
But then it's starting to move from that highest point, right?
From the end of the 6th hour, the beginning
right.
of the 7th hour, so the sun is already setting.
Yeah. The shadows of the evening begin to bend toward the towards the east, and the darkening of the night, the beginning of the night. Erev Lashon, Neshif v'choshech. The word Erev is an expression of night and darkness. Kamoi, Arvish kol simcha. The joy has become there.
Say that on the outside now. What being by him?
Between the darkness, there's 2 darknesses. The darkness of the day, because the day is getting, the sun is now tilting towards the west, right? So then it's starting to become darker. And then there's the that at night, right? And it's in between because it's bein harbaim, between, right? It's between erev. So there's 2 darknesses. Well, there's 2 darknesses. Dark is dark, seemingly. No, there's a dark that is going towards darkness, and then there's dark itself. Between those times is when you have the shecht, right? So it's when the sun is starting to become weaker to when the sun actually will set. Okay? You know what? I never actually got that straight until this moment. Thank you. Okay, 7. And they shall take from the blood, and also and they shall place on the 2 mezuzahs 2 doorposts, and on the lintel, habatima, over the homes, by him, and that which they're going to eat, right? They're going to eat the meat in those houses because they slaughter the animal, right? Rashi, Adam, they shall take from the blood, Zukabalas Adam. This is receiving the blood, right? It's 4 procedures when it comes to slaughtering an animal in the times of the Holy Temple, right? There's slaughtering, that's the first thing. Then there's receiving the blood. So this is the second thing. Yochel biyad, you might think that you receive it in your hand. Talmud Leimer, the verse says, Asher basaf. It says later on, it's going to say not now, but later on it says in a basin, meaning it has to be in a vessel. A mezuzah is a doorpost. Hey, maskufa is also the upright beams of a door frame. Achas mikan lepesach, one on one side of achas mikan, and one on the other side. Hamashkif, the lentil, hu el yoin, that's the upper part of the door frame. Shadel is shaking for Allah, that the door bangs it. When you close it. And in Old French, lintel. Shkifa chavata, shkifa mashkev means banging, right? As we see, kol Allah nidav tarpa the mashkev. Okay, just giving an example. Okay, al habatim. Next Rashi on the batim, on the houses. in which they will eat. But not on the lintel of the doorpost of the house, where they would store straw, or base a bucker, or in the stable. Because you don't live there, right? It says in the house, meaning a place where you live. So you don't eat it in the barn.
Do we assume that this is also when they were, even though it doesn't say this is when they had the milah? It's when they were circumcised?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't.
What does the Gemara say?
Huh?
What does the Gemara say?
I know. Well, we're gonna do Chumash Rashi now. We're not even halfway, or we are maybe halfway. There's so much here. Oh, it's a baser b'alayla hazeh, and they should eat the blood, the flesh of the animal, the meat. On this night, tzli eish, it has to be roasted over fire. Matzos umarim ala mayrim yachluhu. Oh, listen to this. You have to eat it with matzah and with bitter herbs. Eat it. Wow. Amazing. It's a basar Rashi, the flesh is a gidim atama, so meaning beloy, and not the sinews or the bones, right? Because it didn't have to say that. You could have said eat the sev, which would include everything, right? On the bitter herbs, bitter herbs is called bitter because it just says bitter, it doesn't say, right? So it's in reference to bitter herbs. It's even God commanded them to eat bitter herbs to remember that their lives were embittered. Amazing.
You say by the Kernoff? This is the lesson by the Kernoff sandwich? Where is it?
No, because that's Rabbanan. That's Midirabbanan. That's a
No,
Midiraisa. Allah. Yeah.
Which part of the Havana? Not the Kernoff.
Yeah, no, he quotes this pasuk,
Right,
but this pasuk isn't saying that it's eating it as a sandwich. It just means that.
I understand, but
Right.
this is
the pasuk. Yeah, absolutely.
It's interesting because here it says about meat, and there's no meat in the carrot sandwich.
Because we don't have the Korban Pesach today.
I know.
We only have a zecher to it with
that. Understand? So, well, yeah, but then you took this pasuk to put it in there.
Okay. So we eat it with the martyr.
Yes, right.
Okay, 9.
Rabbi Akiva says use this pasuk in order to learn to make the carrot sandwich.
Yes. Anyway, okay, but let's okay, yeah. Al teichlu mimeno, do not eat from it. No. No means not cooked. No, raw. And or cooked in water. It has to be roasted. But only on a pit, on a over a fire. It has to be roasted. From its head to its krov is its inners, like inner the al-kirbai. Actually, that's internal organs. So krov is its legs, right? Head to toe and everything inside. Okay, Rashi, number 9. I'll take no, do not eat from it. That it's not cooked. It's not completely roasted. This no is an Arabic term. Okay, mevushal or cooked, cold. All this is included in a negative commandment not to eat. B'mayim, in water, menayin nishar mashkin. How do we know that other waters you shouldn't cook it in either? And others maybe water you can't, but other liquids. Talmud Leimar, the verse says, since it repeats it, cooked, right? So it means any type of cooking. Doesn't have to be just water. If you put it into fruit juices and cook it, it's also not good. But only roasted by fire. Above the Torah decreed regarding eating it roasted. Right before, we already said that it had to be roasted, but there it was about eating it roasted. Mitzvah says say in a form of positive commandment. Now there's added a negative commandment that do not eat it except roasted. Right? That's a negative commandment. So av, that it needs to be cooked. I mean, roasted only. Reisha al karov, from its heads to its legs. So leyu kuloi ke'echad. In other words, roasted all at once. Reisha, along with the head, its karov and its legs, im kirba and everything inside. You put its intestines into it after you have rinsed it. In other words, you have to take out the innards. The innards, you took it out, but you have to put them
back.
And you have to put them back.
Right, because you can't cook with it inside. You poison the whole meat.
No, well, that's why it had to be rinsed, but you put it back though.
And
Yeah. Wow. Lush and alcohol, the meaning of al in the phrase, what do you mean al? Upon, it means upon the feet and upon the innards. Kilush and al tzivoisam, kamay bitzi voisam. It means in. Like it means they're in their legions. Kamay shehain. This too means that it should be roasted kamay shehu as it is a natural whole state. Kol v'sara mushlam, of its whole complete flesh. Interesting. Okay. Number 10. You should not leave over from it ad boiker until the morning. And any leftover from it ad boiker until the morning. You should burn it in fire. Again, this is no leftovers. This is what it means. That's okay. Okay. That which is left over until the morning. Why does the Torah tell us is ad baker pam shniya, second time? It's telling us this a second time. Why? Litan baker al baker, to add a morning upon a morning. Because morning normally would denote from sunrise. That's morning, right? Therefore, it's repeated until the morning in this verse to tell us that the prohibition that the leftover means that it's forbidden to eat from it by dawn. In other words, there's baker, double morning. Double morning means the first morning, which is dawn, not sunrise. Dawn, it's still dark out. This is what the meaning is according to the sim. It's in what is implied over here. That but there's also a derived law, meaning Haggadah, expounded meaning, that should not be left over, should not be burned on the festival day itself, the following day. And this is the implication, the way you expound upon it. The leftover in the first morning, right after it was sacrificed, the morning of the festival of the 15th, until the second morning, you should stand with, but then do nothing to it until, and you burn on the 16th, after, in Cholamite, in other words. Okay. What time is it?
32.
Okay, folks, I would love to continue. I didn't realize the time. But, okay, verse 11. Wow. Okay. Well,